1. The uncomfortable silence. Have you ever noticed how loud the mind becomes when the world around you is finally quiet? What if the peace you have been begging for is actually the very thing you are running away from? If you have ever felt a sudden, inexplicable wave of anxiety simply because nothing was going wrong, this is for you. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may change the way you experience the quiet moments of your life forever. We spend so much of our lives wishing for a break. We pray for the heavy winds to stop. We wait for the day when the demands end, when the arguments fade, when the endless list of tasks is finally complete. We tell ourselves that once the chaos is over, we will finally rest. But then, it happens. A quiet afternoon arrives. The room is still. No one is asking anything of you. There is no crisis to manage. And instead of feeling relief, you feel restless. An invisible tension crawls into your chest. Your hands itch for a task. You feel a sudden, urgent need to check your phone, to clean a room that is already clean, or even to pick a fight over something incredibly small. You start searching your mind for a problem to solve, a worry to hold on to, or a memory to regret. Why? Because the absence of chaos feels incredibly unfamiliar. It feels unsafe. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that suffering is not always loud. Sometimes, suffering is simply the inability to sit with ourselves. We become so deeply attached to the feeling of moving, fixing, and reacting that stillness feels like an empty void. We forget how to simply be. In Buddhist thought, this is the restless mind. It is the desperate attempt of the ego to prove it exists by generating friction. Imagine a glass of muddy water. When you shake it constantly, the water is chaotic, thick, and impossible to see through. We spend our days violently shaking the glass, thinking that the movement is what keeps us alive. But when you finally set the glass down on a table, the mud slowly begins to settle to the bottom. The water starts to become clear. The settling process, however, is not instantaneous. As the mud falls, you are forced to watch the particles drift downward. You are forced to see exactly what is in the water. This is exactly what happens when you turn off the television, put away your phone, and sit alone in a silent room. The external shaking stops, but the internal settling begins. And that settling process can be profoundly uncomfortable. You suddenly hear the quiet thoughts you were too busy to notice. You feel the deep physical exhaustion you were pushing through all week. You encounter the subtle sadness, the lingering doubt, or the vague worry that was perfectly masked by your daily routine. So, what do you naturally do? You grab the glass and shake it again. You open an app. You text someone who drains your energy. You create a distraction. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, what are you really running from when you cannot sit still? Are you truly afraid of the silence? Or are you afraid of what the silence will finally say to you? Pause. Breathe. Notice the urge to move, to fix, to distract. Just observe it. You do not need to act on it. Let the feeling of restlessness rise without making it your identity. You are allowed to simply exist. Peace is not something you chase. It is something you make space for. But letting go of the need for chaos is only the first step. Because before we can truly rest in the quiet, we have to understand why we are so deeply drawn back into the noise. And this is where the next truth begins. 2. The addiction to the storm. Here is the truth few people want to face. We do not just endure the chaos. Sometimes, we quietly depend on it. When you have spent months or years of your life fighting battles, handling emergencies, or simply surviving high levels of stress, your mind learns a very specific rhythm. It learns to anticipate the next wave. It stays on guard, always watching the horizon for the next problem. You become so accustomed to the heavy weight of tension that when the weight is finally lifted, you do not feel lighter, you feel unbalanced. We mistake constant motion for progress, and we confuse anxiety with being alive. When there is no drama in our relationships, we might suddenly feel disconnected, so we pick at old wounds just to feel a spark. When there is no immediate crisis at work, we invent new worries about the future just to keep our minds occupied. We have forgotten how to exist without a crisis. Buddhist wisdom teaches that our deepest suffering often comes from our attachments, but we do not only attach ourselves to the things we love. We can also become deeply attached to our own pain, our own struggles, and our own stress. In Buddhist thought, this is part of the cycle of suffering. We cling to the familiar, even when the familiar is hurting us, because the unknown feels far more terrifying. The ego builds its house inside the struggle. If the struggle disappears, the ego asks, "Who am I now?" Imagine a sailor who has spent their entire life navigating a small wooden boat through a massive, never-ending hurricane. Every muscle in their body knows exactly how to fight the wind. Their hands are calloused from gripping the ropes. Their mind is sharp, constantly calculating the next massive wave. Then, one morning, the storm suddenly breaks. The dark clouds part. The wind dies down completely. The ocean turns into a flat, mirror-like sheet of glass. How does the sailor feel? They do not feel immediate joy. They feel sheer terror. They pace the deck. They grip the ropes, expecting a sudden gust of wind. Because a sailor who only knows how to fight a storm has absolutely no idea how to sit peacefully in calm waters. We are that sailor. We have spent so much time bracing for impact that we do not know how to let the tension leave our shoulders. We carry the memory of the storm into the quietest rooms of our lives. Think about that for a moment. Ask yourself, when the waters of your life finally calm down, do you allow the boat to rest? Or do you pick up an oar and start thrashing the water, desperately trying to create a familiar wave? Are you secretly searching for a new storm because you are afraid of the stillness? Stop, breathe, let that sink in. You do not have to fight a battle today. You do not need to invent a problem to prove that you are paying attention. When the urge to create friction arises, simply watch it. Recognize it as an old habit, an echo of a storm that has already passed. You can let the water remain calm. You are safe enough to drop the oars, because true peace requires you to lay down your armor. But dropping that armor means you have to stop viewing every empty moment as a problem waiting to be solved. And this is where the next truth begins. 3. The illusion of constant doing. What if the harder you try to manage every detail of your life, the further peace moves away? We live in a world that worships action. We are taught from a very young age that our value is directly tied to our output. If you are not fixing a problem, chasing a goal, or improving yourself, you are somehow falling behind. So, we build an entire identity around being the person who gets things done. We fill our calendars. We rush from one obligation to the next. Even when we try to rest, we turn relaxation into just another task to conquer. We schedule our self-care. We measure our meditation. But what happens when the tasks run out? What happens when there is a quiet gap in the day and nothing requires your immediate attention? The mind panics. It races to find a new objective. If there is no external problem to solve, the mind turns inward and starts treating you as a problem to solve. You begin overanalyzing your past, criticizing your current situation, or worrying about the future. You try to fix things that are not actually broken, simply because you do not know how to exist without a project. Buddhist wisdom teaches that much of our exhaustion comes from this endless need to interfere. We believe we must control the flow of life to survive it, but in Buddhist thought, there is a profound difference between doing and being. Doing is an action of the ego, a relentless attempt to shape reality to our will. Being is the quiet, gentle acceptance of reality as it is. Imagine standing waist-deep in a powerful river flowing toward the ocean. You are desperately trying to push the current forward with your bare hands. You are thrashing in the water, splashing wildly, and completely exhausting yourself. You believe that if you stop pushing, the water will stop moving. But the river does not need your help. It was flowing long before you stepped into it, and it will continue to flow long after you leave. Your frantic pushing does not change the speed of the river. It only drains your energy. It blinds you to the vast, open sky above you. We do this with our lives. We push the river of our careers. We try to force relationships to unfold on our timeline. We attempt to control the speed of our own healing. And when life naturally slows down, we splash wildly, terrified that everything will collapse if we stop intervening. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, are you exhausting yourself trying to push the river? What are you afraid will happen if you simply stop managing everything and let the water carry you for a moment? Stop. Breathe. You can put your hands down. You do not need to constantly justify your existence through action. Your worth is not measured by how much friction you create in a day. Stop trying to force the current. Let life unfold at its own rhythm. Because presence is not something you achieve by working harder. It is what remains when you finally stop trying to control the moment. But when we first try to practice presence, we often make a very subtle mistake. And this is where the next truth begins. For presence is not a performance. What if your attempt to find peace has become just another source of stress? Here is a strange contradiction we rarely admit. When we finally decide to stop rushing, we often treat stillness as our next big project. We decide we are going to relax. We sit down, close our eyes, and demand that our minds instantly quiet down. And when the thoughts inevitably continue to race, what do? We get frustrated. We judge ourselves. We feel like we are failing at being peaceful. We have turned presence into a performance. We try to optimize our rest. We use silence, not as a place to simply exist, but as a tool to fix our anxiety so we can quickly get back to being productive. We read books about letting go, but we treat them like instruction manuals for building a perfect, untroubled life. We approach the present moment with a clenched fist, desperately trying to wrestle it into a state of calm. Buddhist wisdom teaches that true mindfulness is not a state of perfection you achieve. It is not an award for having an empty mind. Mindfulness is simply the gentle act of noticing where you are, exactly as you are. One of the deepest lessons of Buddhism is that suffering arises when we crave things to be different, and this includes craving peace. When you aggressively chase after a calm state of mind, you are still chasing. You are still attached to an outcome. You are simply replacing the desire for worldly success with the desire for spiritual perfection. Imagine a still lake reflecting the bright light of the full moon. The reflection is beautiful, complete, and perfectly peaceful. But then, you decide you want to hold that peace in your hands. You reach out and plunge your arms into the water, trying to grab the moon. The moment you try to capture it, you disturb the water. The ripples distort the image. The reflection shatters. The only way to experience the moon in the water is to let it be. You cannot grab it. You cannot force it to shine brighter. You can only sit by the edge of the lake and quietly observe it. We do this with our own minds. We reach into the water, trying to grab a moment of peace, trying to forcefully push away our restless thoughts. And in doing so, we create ripples of frustration. We make the mind more turbulent than it was before. We sit on our couches or walk in nature, secretly angry that we are not feeling the profound serenity we think we are supposed to feel. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, when you finally get a moment to rest, are you silently judging yourself for how you are resting? Are you trying to force the door of peace open instead of simply waiting on the porch? Pause. Breathe. You do not need to be perfectly calm to be present. If your mind is restless, Let it be restless. Observe the racing thoughts without jumping into the water to fight them. You are not failing at peace just because you feel a storm inside you. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. Stop trying to force the door open, because true presence does not demand a quiet mind. It only asks for an honest one. But to truly stop performing, we must learn to stop arguing with what is happening right now. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. The art of letting things be. Have you ever noticed how much of your daily exhaustion comes from simply fighting the exact moment you are in? Here is a hard truth. Most of our suffering does not come from what is actually happening. It comes from our relentless resistance to it. We argue with reality. We sit in a quiet room and tell ourselves we should be doing something productive. We feel a sudden wave of anxiety and immediately tell ourselves it is bad, dangerous, or a sign that we are failing. If a relationship changes, we fight the change. If a weekend plan falls through, we spend the entire day angry that it did not look the way we imagined. We are constantly demanding that the present moment negotiate with our expectations. Buddhist wisdom teaches that pain is a natural part of life, but suffering is an active choice. Suffering is multiplied by our resistance. The original discomfort is just a passing sensation, but our refusal to accept it, our constant internal screaming of this should not be happening, is what turns a passing shadow into a heavy, suffocating weight. Buddhism reminds us of the profound power of acceptance. Letting things be does not mean you do not care, and it does not mean you surrender your life. It simply means you stop demanding that reality bend to your exact preferences. Imagine a tall tree standing in an open field as a fierce storm rolls in. The tree does not tense its trunk. It does not try to hold its leaves rigidly against the heavy wind. It does not complain that the rain is too cold or that the storm arrived at the wrong time. If the tree were completely stiff, fighting the sheer force of the wind, its branches would snap under the pressure. Instead, it yields. It lets the wind blow through its leaves. It allows the rain to fall. And because it bends with the storm instead of fighting it, the tree remains deeply rooted in the earth. We are rarely like the tree. We become rigid. When we face a quiet moment and feel the deep discomfort of loneliness, we tense up. We fight the feeling by distracting ourselves. When we are ignored by someone we care about, we brace ourselves and start mental wars, replaying conversations, trying to force an explanation. When we feel overwhelmed by the pressure to succeed, we fight our own exhaustion instead of simply resting. We exhaust ourselves fighting the rain instead of simply letting it water the soil. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, what are you currently at war with? What feeling are you desperately trying to push away right now? Is this resistance bringing you peace, or is it only feeding your fear? Pause. Breathe. You do not have to fight the weather of your own mind. If you are sad, allow the sadness to simply sit beside you. If you feel deeply restless in the silence, just notice the restlessness without trying to cure it. Let the storm pass without becoming the storm. Because true peace is not the absence of rain, it is the ability to stand quietly while it falls. But simply allowing the restlessness to exist on the surface is only part of the journey. Because eventually, we must learn to sit quietly with the mind that is creating the storm in the first place. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. Sitting with the restless mind. What if the thoughts that terrify you in the silence are not actually yours to keep? Here is a truth that is hard to accept when you are finally alone with your own head. Just because a thought is loud does not mean it is true. And just because a worry appears does not mean you have to answer it. When we finally stop moving and the external noise fades, the internal volume turns up. We sit down on the edge of the bed or stare out a window, and suddenly the mind begins its rapid replay. We remember a mistake from 5 years ago, We worry about a message we have not even received yet. We analyze a brief conversation, wondering if someone is secretly angry with us. The mind becomes a chaotic machine, producing endless worst-case scenarios out of thin air. And because these thoughts feel so urgent, we believe we must engage with every single one of them. We become trapped in a maze of our own making, simply because the room around us was quiet. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound practice of observing thoughts rather than becoming them. In Buddhist thought, the mind secretes thoughts just as the body naturally produces breath. It is a function, not a crisis. The suffering does not come from the thought itself. It comes from our deep attachment to it. We take a passing illusion, grab it tightly, and say, "This is me. This is my reality." Buddhism reminds us that thoughts are deeply impermanent. They arise, they linger for a moment, and if left completely alone, they naturally dissolve. Imagine a vast, infinitely blue sky. The sky is always there, unchanging, quiet, and boundless. Now imagine that clouds begin to roll in. Some are small, white, and harmless. Others are dark, heavy, and full of thunder. The clouds drift across the expanse, constantly changing shape and speed. The sky does not fight the dark clouds. It does not try to push them away or panic when the thunder rolls. It simply holds them until the wind naturally carries them off. The sky is never damaged by a storm, and it is never permanently changed by the weather. You are the sky. Your thoughts are just the weather. When we experience a sudden wave of restlessness, the fear of falling behind, or the heavy weight of comparison while scrolling on a quiet evening, we forget that we are the sky. We shrink ourselves down and believe we are the dark thundercloud. We mistake a temporary wave of overthinking for our permanent identity. We spend hours trying to fix the cloud, reshape it, or analyze exactly where it came from, completely forgetting that the wind will move it along if we simply let it be. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, how much time do you spend fighting the weather in your mind? When a restless thought arrives in a quiet moment, do you simply watch it pass? Or do you invite it in and let it take over your entire house? Pause, breathe. Observe the thought without following it. The next time a sudden worry strikes when you are trying to rest, do not argue with it. Do not try to solve a problem that does not exist right now. Just watch it drift across the sky of your awareness. You are not your restless thoughts. You are the silent space behind them. But stepping back from our thoughts requires us to break one of our most ingrained habits, the belief that every uncomfortable feeling demands an immediate action. And this is where the next truth begins. 7. Releasing the need to react. What if the most powerful thing you can do when you feel suddenly anxious or restless is absolutely nothing at all? Here is a truth we often ignore. When the quiet becomes too uncomfortable, our first instinct is to react. We treat every sudden emotion as a strict command that must be obeyed immediately. We feel a random wave of anxiety on a peaceful afternoon, and instantly we scramble to fix it. We text a person who drains our energy just to feel a sense of connection. We open a screen to numb the silence. We over-explain ourselves in emails, pick unnecessary arguments, or invent new problems to solve. We feel the internal tension rising, and we believe that if we do not act on it, the feeling will somehow destroy us. Buddhist wisdom teaches the immense power of the pause. In Buddhist thought, there is a profound understanding that between a feeling and a reaction, there is a quiet space. In that space lies your freedom. We often act out of blind habit, driven by a desperate need to escape the present moment. But reacting out of restlessness only feeds the cycle of suffering. One of the deepest lessons of Buddhism is that you do not have to believe everything you feel, and you certainly do not have to act on it. Imagine a small glowing ember landing on the stone floor of a quiet, empty room. Left completely alone, the ember glows for a brief moment. It finds no fuel, it slowly cools, and it quietly turns to ash. But what if you panic? What if you rush over to the ember and start frantically blowing on it, trying to forcefully scatter the ash? Your very breath gives the ember oxygen. You feed it. What would have been a harmless, passing spark suddenly ignites into a fire. We do this constantly with our own restlessness. We feel a sudden urge of loneliness while sitting on the couch, and instead of letting it be, we blow on the ember. We seek out hollow distractions. A friend takes too long to reply, and instead of enjoying the silence, we blow on the ember. We create entire narratives about being ignored or abandoned. We take small, passing moments of discomfort and turn them into massive fires, simply because we refuse to sit still and let the spark die out on its own. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, how many fires are burning in your mind right now simply because you refuse to stop blowing on the embers? What are you afraid will happen if you feel an uncomfortable urge and you simply choose not to respond? Pause, breathe. The next time you feel the urgent, rushing need to fix a quiet moment, do not move. Feel the heat of the urge, but do not give it your breath. You do not have to chase what is already leaving. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. You are not powerless. You can simply watch the ember fade. Because peace is not about having perfectly calm emotions. It is about trusting yourself enough to know you do not have to obey every uncomfortable feeling. But once you stop reacting to the surface, you begin to uncover something much deeper beneath the silence. And this is where the next truth begins. 8. Discovering the refuge within. What if the quiet space you have been frantically trying to escape is actually the only place where you can truly be safe? Here is a reality we rarely acknowledge. We spend almost all of our lives seeking a refuge. We look for a safe harbor in our relationships, hoping another person will finally make us feel secure. We build thick fortresses out of our careers, believing that if we just achieve enough, we will be protected from failure. We try to find comfort in constant entertainment, in the endless scroll of our screens, or in the validation of others. But all of these things are fragile. They change, they leave, they break. And when we are suddenly left alone in a quiet room with nothing to accomplish, the silence feels terrifying. Because all of our external armor has been stripped away, we feel completely exposed. We mistake the emptiness of the moment for a threat. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound meaning of taking refuge. In Buddhist thought, a true refuge is not a physical place you go to hide from the harshness of the world. It is the deep, unwavering stillness that already exists inside you. We suffer because we try to build our emotional homes on shifting sand. We rely heavily on things that are inherently impermanent. Buddhism reminds us that true safety cannot be found by controlling the chaotic noise of the outside world. It can only be found in the quiet, undisturbed presence of your own awareness. Imagine a traveler who has spent years walking through a harsh, freezing winter storm. They are exhausted, shivering, and desperate for warmth. Finally, they stumble upon a heavy, ancient stone house. The door is open. Inside, a candle burns brightly in a quiet room, warming the stone walls. It is silent, and it is completely safe. But the traveler is so used to the freezing wind that they refuse to step inside. They stand in the doorway, staring back out into the dark storm, frantically trying to build a shelter out of the falling snow. They are freezing to death while standing inches away from a warm, quiet hearth. We are that traveler. The stone house is the present moment. But when life finally gives us a quiet evening, a weekend with no obligations, or a sudden moment of stillness, we refuse to step fully inside. We stay in the doorway, looking back out at the storm of our lives. We check our phones, desperately looking for a new crisis. We mentally replay arguments from work, We feel the sudden absence of a heavy burden, and we immediately invent a new worry to carry. We seek out the cold, familiar wind of our anxiety, completely ignoring the warmth of our own presence. We treat the present moment like a lonely void, when it is actually our only true sanctuary. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, how much energy are you wasting trying to build a safe home out of temporary things? What are you afraid will happen if you finally step out of the cold, drop your heavy bags, and let the quiet hold you? Pause. Breathe. You do not need to look outside yourself for safety today. You do not need to earn your right to rest by fixing one more problem. You can simply remain exactly where you are. Make your presence a refuge, not another task to perform. Because the silence you have been fearing is not an empty room waiting to swallow you. It is the only home that can never be taken away. And this is where the final truth begins. 9. Welcoming the quiet. What if the silence was never your enemy? Think back to the beginning of this journey. We started with that strange, heavy feeling, the sudden wave of anxiety that hits when the room is finally still, the desperate urge to find a problem to solve when nothing is actually going wrong. We have spent so much of our lives waiting for the storm to pass, only to realize that we had become deeply addicted to the wind. We thrashed in the river, trying to force the water. We treated our own presence as just another task to perform, and we panicked when the embers of our restless thoughts sparked in the dark. But now, you know the truth. The restlessness is not a sign that you are broken. It is simply the echo of a mind that has forgotten how to rest. Buddhist wisdom teaches that all things are deeply impermanent, even our strongest habits, even our heaviest anxieties. You do not have to be trapped by the rhythm of the storm forever. The ultimate practice of non-attachment is not just letting go of the things you want, it is letting go of the heavy belief that you must always be doing something to justify your existence. True inner peace is not a distant mountaintop you have to constantly climb. It is the quiet space you gently uncover when you finally stop fighting the moment. Imagine that same glass of muddy water we spoke about earlier. It has been sitting on the table for a long time now. You did not have to forcefully filter the water. You did not have to reach inside and pull the dirt out piece by piece. All you had to do was stop shaking the glass. Now, the mud rests quietly at the very bottom. The water above is perfectly clear. It reflects the light of the room. You are that clear water. When the mind gets loud, when the old habit of overthinking tries to crawl back in, remember the glass. You do not have to engage with the mud. You do not have to grab the glass and shake it. Just because the clarity feels unfamiliar, you can simply allow the stillness to hold you. Think about your own life one last time. You have carried the weight of the world for so long. You have managed, controlled, worried, and planned. You have survived the rushing rivers and the heavy winds. But the storm is over right now. The room is quiet. The sky is clear. Pause, breathe, look around you. There is no emergency. There is no fire to put out. The space you are in right now is safe. You do not need to fill the quiet with noise, and you do not need to fill your heart with imaginary burdens. Let the heavy armor fall to the floor. Let life meet you exactly where you are, without demanding that it entertain you, challenge you, or validate you. Trust the silence. It is not an empty void waiting to swallow you. It is the presence of your own spirit, finally getting a chance to breathe. You have arrived. Make this presence your permanent refuge. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. The storm will pass. Stay with yourself.